kay Red na God is beyond time and beyond space, beyond human comprehension, and God is absolute good, nilagay mo ron. Paano mo alam in the first place na God is absolute good kung beyond time and beyond space? Paano mo nalaman in the first place?
just come by accident, or was it by intelligent design? Because you just said that the water boils at 90 or 100 degrees centigrade, everything has a standard. Now, were all these things by design or just by accident? Because there is order. See? Now, who placed this order in the universe? What else is to be topsy-turvy? Nag-iikutan ng mga kadena, mababa, there are about 4,500 bullets that crisscross the path of the star. See? Have you read that already? Now, how come we're always at the right time? This planet Earth is always...
It has always been at the right place and at the right time so far. We cannot really guarantee that some kind of asteroid would land on the Earth in the near future and wipe us out. So when you say that something is designed for a specific purpose, you're actually assuming that you know that purpose. For instance, here's the thing. Was the hand designed for a glove, or was the glove designed for a hand? Of course, nobody would say that the hand was designed for a glove, right? The glove was designed for the hand. Why? Because the hand followed. So, here is life, and here are the conditions for life. Which came first? It's the conditions, right? So life arose because of the conditions.
Who designed the hand?
Nobody. It just arose. Okay, here's the thing. The hand was not really designed that way. Why? Because there are several instances of hands that do not look this way, and yet they are perfectly capable hands. Isn't that correct?
Okay, good evening. You said a while ago that we cannot define God. If you cannot define God, therefore, God is not existing. But
No, I did not say that. When I said we cannot define God, the term God becomes meaningless.
actually, there is no definition as well in political science, an exact definition of political science. It means, but we cannot say that it is meaningless. But it is true, political science is true, because it is intelligible because we are experiencing it. Now, my question is, and I'm expecting for a logical and a scientific answer because everything must be logical, all right? So the finite thing is caused by the infinite one. Now, if there is, sabi mo kanina, there is a succession of events, the causation. Now, a very simple question, an elementary question, but it requires a logical answer. If it is not God who caused everything,
Sorry?
if it is not God who caused everything, then what it is or who it is?
Okay. That's a very good question, Paul, actually. You're saying, well, that automatically assumes that everything has a cause. Correct. So you're asking what caused everything. But the thing is, when you talk about everything, for a cause to be a cause, it must come before the thing, right? You cannot have a cause coming after the effect. The universe, as you said, is an effect. And space and time are actually part of the universe. You cannot have space nor time without a universe. Causality cannot exist outside the universe because causality has an element of time. Now, if the universe involves time, and you talk about a cause of the universe, you're actually talking about a time before time, which makes no sense. It's like asking, what is north of the North Pole? Or where is the edge on the surface of a sphere? It simply does not exist.
Just a follow-up question. Excuse me. Just
Yeah, that is correct, no? Correct. There is no such thing as before time.
Follow up. Actually, that question is a very old one. No? It was already answered for so many times and for so many years before. Causality actually does not really always involve time. For instance, if I move this pen, the motion of the pen is simultaneous with the cause. It is not all. The motion of the pen does not exist after the cause. Just look at this. If I move that, I am causing the motion of the pen. But in the order of time, the cause and the effect are simultaneous. But in the order of idea, in the order of reason, the cause always precedes the effect. Because that is what reason is telling us. The cause will always precede the effect. But in the order of time, they are simultaneous. Okay. Now, what about the creation of the universe? They said that Einstein proposed that time started with the universe. But actually, that was a very old idea of Saint Thomas Aquinas. Time is simultaneous with the universe. At the moment the universe created, that was also the beginning of time. Now, does that involve time in the creation of God? No. Because St. Augustine already answered that. If creation is occurred in time, because the universe is the beginning of the universe, the beginning of time, therefore there is time in God. No. The creation on the part of God is an eternal act. But St. Augustine said that the universe emanated as an effect in time or with time. It is an effect that emanated with time. But the causality or the causal efficiency of God was simultaneously done. It's the same with answering prayers. When you see, if we pray, if God answers my prayer today, does it mean that God enters into a new act that is in time? No. Because philosophers in the Catholic Church have tried to explain it in this way. All the actions of God is done eternally, meaning to say there is no succession. It is absolutely undivided act. It is eternal. It is not a succession, infinite succession. No? So we should not think of that when we think of God. It is an eternal act, a divided act, a simultaneously, absolutely simultaneous act. Now, when my prayer is answered, it is not as if God is entering into a new act with time. No, it's just the effect of the eternal causality of God. The eternal causality of God is realized in every moment of time. Okay? And every time that God answers prayers, His eternal causality is realized in time. So it's an emanation of effect. So it doesn't follow that because causality, effect sometimes follows causality, therefore there is time in God. No, it has been answered by philosophers ex professo. Very clear and distinct, although the way I answer it now is not so clear. But if you read the literature, that is an old question that has been settled already.
You mentioned something, you mentioned about believing something like gold. You believe gold because you can prove it, you can see it, you can quantify it, sort of thing. Now, my question to you is, I just want to clarify what you mean by existence. Because if I ask you the question, do integers exist? How would you answer that?
Because they are not real, in the sense that they are objective realities. Integers only exist insofar as they refer to something. Like, for example, 1. I would answer 1. One chair exists, but 1 One what?
So therefore, then you are limiting your definition of existence to the material existence. So there's no such thing as a non-material existence in that definition.
Not necessarily, but not non-physical. Because when you say objective reality, it's something that you could actually verify. I could verify, Red could verify, somebody could test, somebody could falsify. Objective reality. As for realities that are outside the sphere of objectivity, they might be considered to exist, but they are not objective reality. Their existence is quite different. Like, for example, love. Like, for example, goodness. These are things that we consider to exist, but they are not necessarily objective. Some people can deny them, right? And when we are presented like, prove to me love, you can see the standard. Like, for example, somebody gives flowers, somebody gives chocolates and Valentine's Day, but you can never really see that love is there. The conditions might be present. You can look at the occurrences, but you can never really see that object in itself if it's not an objective reality.
So what plus one is equal to 2 is not true. It's not. So what you say is 1 plus 1 plus 2 is not 2, right? It's not 2, right?
Unless you have something that is one something, and another something, then you have two somethings. That becomes true. But 1 plus 1 equals 2 might not be true. It is valid, but it is not true.
Okay, when you say it's not objective, it's objective because 1 plus 1 is subjective. Okay, that's why as an argument to argue that God exists because we can verify God. Again, the answer to that is it doesn't matter. So that whole discussion is pointless. Okay, there's no need to ask question whether God exists or not because in the first place, it doesn't follow that you can verify God doesn't exist. Okay, and secondly, if you say 1 plus 1 is, it may not be true, I don't know where did we get that idea. 1 plus 2. Okay, that's an abstraction of the mind, and not just mean that there are a lot of things here that.
Okay. Ang sabi mo kanina is that the cause of the universe must be outside of space and time. So, sabi mo, yun yung binigay mo na reason why the cause cannot be like the flying spaghetti monster or like fairies or ano, because they're not transcendent. So, how do you disqualify other possible transcendent causes? Like, for example, not necessarily an absolutely good God or just a God that's omnipotent or like timeless and
Okay, that will not follow because in that case, God will become contingent. Okay, if there are other transcendent beings, God will become contingent. How will, example, if we have two gods, A and B, how will God A explain the existence of God A? You know, the argument of Kalam is logical consistency. How do we explain why the universe is finite? Why it began, it has a beginning existence. Now we say, how do you brush away other gods? There must be only one God. If there are two, then they are the same. Okay, because that will make God as contingent being. He cannot explain the existence of others. That will be that God. Now, if he cannot explain the existence of others, then he is not the ego. Now, the conclusion of the Kalam is that we must end with one, so that we have rational consistency. This is under the principle of sufficient reason. If two gods, that's not sufficient anymore. Okay, we validate the principle of sufficient reason.
para kahit doon, okay. Sinabi mo kanina na ano, tawag doon? Sinabi mo na kanina na the temporal events must be an actual infinite because God is omniscient.
Sorry, could you please? Temporal events must...
The temporal sequence of events,
Okay.
you said, must be an actual infinite
Must be an actual infinite.
because God is omniscient or
Okay.
something like that.
Well, what
Uh-uh.
about that?
Huh?
What about it?
I don't see how it follows that because God knows something, that something must be an actual infinite.
Okay, like this. Well, I'm basing it on the concept of an afterlife, right? So, okay, the universe might have started somewhere, okay? But will it also end somewhere? Because it seems that when a person dies and enters the afterlife, so that person is still within time, right? So the afterlife is until when? Is it finite? Is it an eternity? Until when will God exist with these souls in heaven? Because if it is an eternity, then that means even if the point in time at which the universe started was here, there will be no end. So, Red is saying that from now, the Kalam is saying that from now, we extend back in time, we come to a point in time where it stops. It has to stop. It's the start of everything. But does the Kalam cosmological argument say anything about moving forward in time? Does it have an end? Apparently, it does not. Because it says souls will be in heaven for an eternity. Now, if forward or infinite regress is impossible, it seems as though infinite progress is possible. Now, there are two kinds of infinity. Kalam might say na, oh, that's okay. There's an infinity of the future, but it is not an actual infinity yet. It is a potential infinity because it hasn't happened yet. So Kalam might reason it that way. But there's a problem. According to the God's omniscience and according to Red's explanation earlier, God is outside time. Meaning, in the knowledge of God, being complete and omniscient, everything that will happen can and actually has already happened in his mind because he's outside time. Meaning that this eternity of events or infinite progression of events is not just potential but an actual infinity.
Again, it's not true that the afterlife is infinite because only the how do we define God as outside time? It is not really that God has existed from the past and the infinite future. It's not like that, but it's to be outside time is to simultaneously comprehend the within history of the universe. So the afterlife is not can never be infinite, okay? But it is always indefinite. But you know, indefinite. What does that mean? No, don't think from here to the indefinite future. Why? Because when you have reached the indefinite future, that is already our present. Okay, so that's not infinite, finite. Okay, so you extend again. That's another present. So again, extend again. God comprehends that because it is always finite. Okay, so the afterlife is not infinite for us because that's impossible.
You explained something about knowledge and existence, and your explanation suggests that for a knowledge to be true, there must be some contact or basic knowledge. You have seen that thing for it to exist, and you know something about that thing. Definite knowledge, like your example about the gold, you mentioned the atomic weight. So, is that all you have? Is that all we have in this universe for us to conclude to say that something to exist, there must be a physical evidence? We have seen that thing and we know definite properties of that thing.
Well, I did mention about knowledge and existence earlier. Which are you specifically asking about? The knowledge or the existence part?
Again.
Kasi I discussed about knowledge and then I discussed about existence.
Yes.
So these are two separate things that I discussed. Is your question pertaining to the knowledge part of my discussion or to the existence part?
Both, because you have given criteria. I'm asking about the criteria you gave.
Yeah.
Is that all we have in this universe? That all you can give for us to conclude that something to be true in its existence, something to be true that it exists, it must fall on that criteria you gave?
Well, what I can say is that is the most common definition. There are other definitions out there, but they are not that popular. They might be fringe definitions. As for the philosophical community, they would say that knowledge constitutes justified true belief because, come to think of it, if something is unjustified, or if a person cannot justify his claim, or a person's claim is actually not true, or if a person does not believe in such a claim, then we cannot claim that that person knows. On the other hand, when we talk about existence, if it's not an objective reality, then we cannot really prove anything to a person. Like, for example, an objective reality, a non-objective reality. My example earlier is love. How do you prove that you love somebody? You give flowers. You go on dates. You marry that person, probably. But what you're doing are actions. You are not really showing this is love. No. What you're saying, these are actions that I use to show you that I love you. But as for me showing, this is love, show, CO, we don't have something like that. So love has no objective reality aside from here.
Just follow up, no? Kasi actually, I'm concerned about these two things. What can you say about life and truth? Is there an objective reality of truth and life?
Truth and life. Well, as I mentioned earlier, the definition of truth is basically the three: the correspondence, coherence, and also pragmatic theory. Now, meaning that truth works, okay, we can use it. Truth does not conflict with itself. And then when you say that something is true, you have to be able to prove it. Okay, it has to have an external referent. Because if it does not have an external referent, you can't prove it. Okay, it conflicts with your statements are conflicting. You can't really say that those statements are true.
Kasi it is a general perspective or a general idea that God do exist. So therefore, ang dapat the affirmative side, I suppose, is the atheist, yung nagsasabi ng Diyos hindi nag-exist. But it is illogical that defying one's argument, but you cannot show something that is objective, it is illogical, no? It is under ignorantio elenchi. Now, ito yung tanong ko kanina. Kung hindi Diyos, sino o ano ang pinanggalingan ng lahat ng bagay? Kasi nga, ito yung argumento. Kung i-define natin, kung sasabihin natin mali yung naniniwala sa Diyos, dahil mali yung kanyang argumento, kailangan mo namang patunayan sa pamamagitan ng pagbibigay ng isang konkretong bagay. Ngayon, so, ano yon? Yun yung gusto namin. Kung sasabihin na hindi alam o wala, then so be it.
Actually, what caused the universe, we don't know yet.
Thank you very much.
My proposition in this debate is not, baka kasi misunderstood eh. It's not that God does not exist. Okay? I'm not saying that God does not exist because that would be proving a universal negative, which is practically illogical. Yeah. But rather, what we're doing is we are asking, do we have enough reasons to believe that God exists? And as it turns out, the Kalam Cosmological argument, or at least as is presented by my opponent, is not yet enough. So what we can do is we still look for other reasons. And when we find those other reasons, only then can we conclude that God exists. My favorite example is that of a black swan. Prior to the 1600s, there's no evidence of a black swan. Are we justified in saying that black swans do not exist? No. Kasi nga absence of evidence is not proof of absence eh. But can we honestly say black swans do exist? Hindi din. Because absence of evidence, although it's not proof of absence, it cannot also be proof of presence. So you still have to provide positive proof. And that's the only thing that we are waiting for. If it so happens that the Kalam Cosmological argument passes the test of reason, or any argument for that matter, then won't we accept it if it's reasonable?
Magandang gabi po sa inyo. Para po kay Sir Red. Na-impress po ako dun sa presentation ninyo eh. Very scientific po. I believe na nothing, something cannot comes from nothing. So something must coming from something, di ba? So ang tanong ko po, ano po ang something na ito? At kung si God po to, saan po nang galing si God?
The Kalam Cosmological argument is leading to a conclusion that there must be a cause that is necessary. Why? Because the premise is that the universe has a beginning in existence. So where did the universe came from? So we have to conclude a cause that is unlike the universe. So that cause must be necessary. Meaning to say, you will not going to ask what is the cause of that God, because as included in the conclusion, it must be a necessary being. Meaning to say, since there is reality, there must be two beings, necessary and contingent. We have contingent, we have the universe, which is contingent. Why did we have the contingent universe? That's the question. Now, since we have a contingent universe and it has a beginning in existence, and we cannot explain why it existed, because it cannot came from nothing, then we must conclude that there is a necessary being. When you say a necessary being, it is not contingent. It has no cause because it is outside space and time. Okay, so that is you cannot ask what is the cause of God because that's wrong. That's not the point of the Kalam. The Kalam is leading to a conclusion that we have, with logical necessity, postulate the existence of a necessary being in order to explain the contingent being. If you're going to ask that God has a cause, then it is not a necessary being. So you have to post it again, a necessary being, a being that is necessary, that has no cause.
Okay, kasi I just want to you hit yung necessary cause. What makes God a necessary cause? Ano yung kailangan mong ibigay na ano? Kasi when you say time and space, you're not in time and space. You cannot even imagine what is outside time and space, tama? So we're parang what we're doing now ngayon, nag-a-assume tayo may Superman, may Krypton, may ganon. Because we cannot even tell what is outside time and space. Now, tapos sasabihin mo, para ang God maging necessary cause, kailangan outside time and space siya. But parang hindi na, well, I have to be honest, parang hindi na sound yung argument. So I just want to ask you two questions. One, what makes God a necessary cause? And two, yung bang word na necessary cause, is it a statement of fact or is it just a statement of logic? Yun lang po tanong ko.
It is a statement of logic because it is necessitated by the premise that the universe is contingent. So therefore, because the universe as a contingent thing is contingent and it has a beginning existence, you have to postulate a necessary being. Meaning to say, logically, it is telling us that there must be a necessary being. Because, what is the reason? Yeah, it is not a statement of fact. There are two ways, when you say statement of fact, that has two meanings. A statement of fact, what fact? A logical fact or a mechanical fact? because the universe cannot exist from nothing. So therefore, logically, it is a logical fact that there must be a necessary being. It is possible to have only a necessary being, or it is also possible to have a necessary at the same time a contingent being. But it can never be possible to have only a contingent being. Okay, so we have two logically valid alternatives here. Either there is only a necessary being, or there is a necessary being at the same time a contingent being. But we can never say, it is never correct to say that there is only a contingent being, the universe that has the beginning existence, because it cannot came from nothing.
Sir, I'm just going to clarify because you made a factual claim that the universe cannot be caused by nothing. My question is, you said you are arguing about a nothing defined by philosophy as the absence of being, right? But the problem is, even by that definition, it is arguable that the definition of nothing as an absence of being does not exist. But we know, based on the inferences of our observations in physics, that at least the definition of the physical nothing is at least not only probable, is conciliant with our model. But the point is this: the question, when you posit God as necessary, it means you are saying that it is the only possible source or cause. But the problem is, we know that a quantum vacuum physical nothingness state has intrinsic physical qualities that can cause a universe. Therefore, I am asking you, why can't you posit this as another cause for the universe?
Actually, that was already answered in my presentation. If you posit the quantum vacuum as the cause of the universe, then you are not answering the contingency of that quantum vacuum. Because that quantum vacuum is what I said, it's not the universe. In my premise, I stated that the entire physical order came into existence. And in that physical order is included the quantum vacuum.
I need to clarify. The physical contingency part was made questionable given the fact that it's a physical nothingness state, but it has intrinsic qualities. And we know that this existence is scientifically considered to be possible. That's the point. And it can be infinitely regressive to the past.
What it can be?
I'm saying, even before that happens, physical nothingness is known to be possible to be existent. And it has intrinsic qualities to cause the plan. I'm asking you, why are you dismissing of this cause and stating that God is the only cause?
Because that quantum vacuum that you're saying is still physical, and so it falls under the order of time. And you cannot say that. Are you saying that that quantum vacuum is eternal, as it existed for infinite time?
I already said it existed prior to the existence of the Big Bang. It existed. It's an existence prior to the beginning of time. My question is,
No, that's your mistake. Because you're following the idea you're following the idea that the time began with the Big Bang. That is true if you don't postulate the existence of other universes and quantum vacuum. So it began with the universe, because we don't have any other physical background to say that there is time. Now, if there is quantum vacuum, then there is time also prior to the Big Bang. Because the statement that t is equal to 0 started with the Big Bang is true, given that there are no other physical things that has existed before it. That was the theory before. Now, Hawking introduced the idea, and Tyron introduced the idea of other universes, and the quantum vacuum Infinity in time.
Red is actually talking about philosophical nothingness. And philosophical nothingness actually even is not physical nothingness, because physical nothingness contains the vacuum fluctuations, the possibility of quantum particles, the possibility of quantum tunneling, etc. When Red says philosophical nothingness, it's really nothing. It's basically it's non-existent. So when he's saying that something cannot come from nothing, it means something cannot come from philosophical nothingness. So on that part, I would understand what Red is saying. However, the problem with that is that when you talk about philosophical nothingness, it doesn't really exist. So you're talking about something that has non-existence. It's actually, you're talking about much ado about nothing, and that I think is the main contention with Red's part, that something cannot come from philosophical nothingness. So something must have to come from something, which is for him that is God. For you, that is the quantum vacuum.
No, I just want to clarify. I don't think philosophical nothingness yung sinasabi niya. Actually, because nang nag-lecture siya dito, he's talking about science.
Well, we could ask him about that.
Are you talking about philosophical nothingness or
In my presentation, I talk about both of them. But his point is like this. Actually, I got his point. It's very clear. It's very easy, like this. He's saying that time began with the Big Bang, because that's what he read from science. Okay, so T is equal to 0 is at the start of Big Bang. Now, some scientists would say that, well, the Big Bang started with the quantum fluctuation. So quantum random fluctuation existed without time. But that is not how you conclude, because that is not how you reason. That's wrong reasoning. Because time is equal to 0, start with the Big Bang, because during that time, it was only thought that there was nothing before the Big Bang. So time started with the Big Bang. Now, if you postulate now with Hawking and some other physicists that there is a quantum fluctuation, then time did not start with the Big Bang, but it existed together with the quantum fluctuation. In the quantum vacuum, there is electromagnetic energy, aside from a sea of negative energy. Okay. Now, when you say electromagnetic energy, it is a wave that travels. Now, a wave that travels has motion, and motion is time, reckoned by us. Okay, so there is time in quantum vacuum. Now, are you saying that quantum vacuum is infinite in time? Of course, we cannot say that, because you cannot regress back to infinity. So even the quantum vacuum has a beginning. So therefore, if there is really a quantum vacuum, then that quantum vacuum was created by God, because it cannot come from nothing. Okay?
One is, if God is beyond space and time, then where is God? And the other is, how did you arrive to the conclusion that God is outside space and time?
Actually, when time, you have to understand what time is. Okay, time is simply motion reckoned by us. There is matter and there is motion. Now, God is outside time. This doesn't mean that he has existed from past to infinite future. No, God could be here, but he has comprehended the finite universe. That's what we mean by outside time. Meaning to say, if you have comprehended the finite universe, then you are outside time. Our mind is not outside time, because our mind works in a way that is progressive, step by step. We know by progressive way. But if our mind can comprehend everything, then you are outside time. Okay? So if you say, where is God? God is simply intelligence that comprehends everything. Okay? So you don't say, where is God? Is there heaven? No. That is just a religious way of stating in the Bible. It's a religious way of stating things about heaven, so that people will be able to understand what heaven is. But there is no such thing as a place which we call heaven, because God is simply understanding everything, is an intelligence understanding everything. So he is outside time.
Now, would they say, okay, if I'm not
not mistaken, the afterlife is outside space and time. It is definitely outside the physical world. But yet, Buddhists do not believe in God. Okay, so how do you reconcile this? Because the way you're saying it is that anything outside space and time created space and time, and it is God. But now Buddhism says that the afterlife is outside space and time, but there is no God. So how come you always assume that as long as it's outside space and time, it's God? Now in science, there's a multiverse theory now, and it says that the other universes may have different scientific laws. Now why can't there just be another universe which will say that in this universe there is no space and time? And it is considered another universe, simply another universe, but it is not considered God. And now there is even this article in a spiritual book that says that if you go beyond the black hole, you are going to enter another universe. So for them, it is not God. It is just simply another universe. You may call it spiritual universe, psychic universe, where all the ghosts are. But why will it have to necessarily be God?
There are only two things that are outside time. When you die, or if you are God. Okay. If you die, maybe if there is no soul, then you are already outside time. Meaning to say nothingness. If you are outside time, then you are God. For example, today, if my intelligence is capable of comprehending everything at once, then actually I am outside time. But of course, there's no one is like that. So that's what we mean by outside time. You don't need to go beyond this universe to be outside time. That's why there is an argument, if God is outside time and space, how can He has an efficient causality with this universe? How can He affect this universe? Actually, God is here, but He is just outside time, because being outside time is not to be outside the universe in a different dimension. Outside time is simply the capacity to comprehend everything at once. Meaning to say, if you comprehend everything at once, then there is no motion in you because you have comprehended it at once. So you are outside time. You don't go to the universe. Now, regarding the Buddhists, if you die and then the afterlife, that's still not outside time. So the point there is, they are not saying something that is correct philosophically, because they are not philosophically sophisticated. And then the multiverse is not outside time and space, unless that universe has not existed. Outside us, outside our universe. But if you go there, if that's possible, then you are still in that space and time. Yeah. It's outside our space and time. But if you go there, you are still in that space and time. Now, if there is no space, then there is no other universe in that universe. Then there's no point talking about that universe, because if there's no space in that universe, then it does not exist.
Why is there something rather than nothing? Don.
Okay. Why is there something rather than nothing? Well, the question is, hindi ganun kasimple eh. When you say why, you could be talking about two things. You can be talking about a mechanism, you can be talking about a reason or purpose. Please clarify, what are you saying dun sa why?
Both.
Both?
Pwede rin naman yung second ano mo.
Okay, let's go to the first. Both naman eh, the first. Why is there something rather than nothing? What is the mechanism? Well, with what quantum physics is telling us nga, nature abhors a vacuum. There is no such thing as a philosophical nothing. Physical nothingness is composed of vacuum states which fluctuate, and the nothingness actually contains energy which can turn into matter, kasi matter is energy. As for the purpose, as to why, well, that's the thing. How do we know what purpose is? For instance, what is the purpose of anything that we do? Kunyari, a chair. What is the purpose of a chair? Is it for sitting? Typically, we use it for sitting. But can it also be used for hitting a person? Yes, it could be used for hitting a person. Can it also be used as a paperweight? Yes, it could be used as a paperweight. So when we talk about purpose, there are many different purposes for one single thing. maybe the purpose of the universe, okay, is to make this debate possible. But we can never tell.
I've just
Okay, that is a very important question because that's why we have philosophy, and then philosophy has reached to the conclusion. Actually, Aristotle, who was not a theist, because he was asking that question, he became a theist, although his theism is somewhat like deism. So why he believed in originator of everything? Because if you ask the question, why is there something rather than nothing, you must conclude that there is a necessary being as the cause of this something, because this something, by virtue of the fact that it cannot be eternal or infinite in time, has a beginning in existence. Now, why did it came into existence? So this leads to the conclusion that there is a necessary being. Why is there something? Because there is a necessary being. If there is no necessary being, then there is no something. But it is also possible that there is only a necessary being. But it is never possible that there is only a something that is contingent. So either necessary being only, or necessary and contingent, but never simply contingent being. Because we can still ask, why is there something rather than nothing?
quick question lang, because I haven't taken any subject in philosophy, so so paki-clarify lang yung sinabi mo na the evil is the absence of goodness. Di ba the absence of goodness is indifference, the absence of immorality, of morality is amorality, and iba pa yung immorality. So is it really inconceivable, and Don can also correct us on this, about what philosophy says about goodness. Is it really inconceivable for a powerful being to create a universe just to torture people? Because obviously most people are going to hell, so I don't know. He's not really necessarily good, right? Even if he or she exists.
Okay, I believe that you all agree with me that the most powerful force in the universe is love. Okay, love can cover all things. Okay? Now that's being. Love is being. If God is the creator, then the creature cannot be greater than the creator. So if there is love in the universe, which is a creature, and the creature cannot be greater than the creator, so it follows the reason that love is of God. Okay, it follows that love is of God. So therefore, God is love. Now, we have a morality. We have a morality. Where did we get our morality? There is a standard for morality, and these are the moral virtues: love, justice, honesty, kindness, generosity, patience. These are the standard of morality. Now, we can argue that the standard of morality cannot came from evolution. Wherever you go, love, kindness, generosity is good, and their opposite is bad. You can never meet a person that will think that kindness is evil and being unkind is good. So we need to say every human being, in as much as he is in normal reason, knows the standard of morality. If that is the case, morality is universal. Now, since morality is universal, it is, and all human beings knows that, where did we get that? Is it a product of evolution? No, because even if there are some creatures, for example, aliens, that evolve, which are rational, it's impossible to think that for them, respect is good and respect is evil and disrespect is good. No, because they have reason. They know that respect is good and disrespect is evil. So even if there are other organisms that evolve, which is different from us, and as much as they have reason, the same morality will apply. Now, the fact that morality is universal and God is the creator, because as we have argued, there's a first cause, then therefore that morality came from God. So that is actually the nature of God. We can conclude that God is good because of those laws that are in us, because they did not came from us. We cannot change morality, and it is not a product of evolution. Yeah, it's not a product of evolution. It can be argued.
Lenil, I just want to clarify. You were asking, can an all-powerful God create a universe just to torment? Okay. Well, that depends. Is that God all good? Well, can an all-powerful, all-good God create a universe just to torment people? Answer is yes. Why? Because God is the standard of good. Whatever He does, then that will be good.
God is not the standard of good in the sense that He can do anything, because He is also subject to His own law. For instance, He cannot make Himself not God. Okay, He cannot make a square circle. That's impossible. He cannot bring back the past. Okay, He cannot create a star that is infinitely big. In the same way, God is subject to His own moral laws, the moral virtues: generosity, kindness, patience, love, justice, fairness, respect. In moral is, no matter what the motive is, you will never say that justice is evil and justice is good. There are other things that are relative to us. For example, having many wives is okay, and other culture is not okay. But disrespect with your wives is always evil, and respect with your wife is always good. That's universal. Owning slaves. Was it ever good? Owning slaves. Oh, of course, that's depends. How do you treat your slave? Yeah, like how many times but my answer to that is that depends on, kasi slave is just that we have some of us have katulong, but that will become evil if you treat it in an evil way. Okay, and so God is subject to His own laws, because these goodness are the reason, eternal reason of God, and we are participating in this eternal reason. That's why we cannot unreason them unless you are an insane or you are retarded. So in the same way, God cannot unreason them. How about the Bible? God is really allowing that's another issue.
I was going to say, friends say, God is subject to His own laws. That's actually the very reason why I say that it is possible for God to create the universe simply to torment His creations. Why? Because He's subject to His own laws. He makes those laws. Like, for example, He might not like how the inhabitants of this particular planet is behaving, so He could destroy them with, say, a flood. Okay? And He's totally justified in doing that. Why? Because it's for greater good. And this good is defined according to His own knowledge. But here's the thing. God's goodness might actually contradict with our own notion of goodness. Because according to some people, our own notion of goodness is flawed, it's imperfect. My question to that is, if our knowledge of goodness is so imperfect, how do you know that that is
Everyone, for coming.